Hi, good afternoon. Thank you all so very much for listening today. We have on the line about 113 folks around the country, so thank you so much for joining us. And also, we will be recording, so thank you for everyone who takes the time to listen once we're archived on the website. Introduction. The Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation Quality of Life Grants Program, created by the late Dana Reeve, reached a major milestone in 2017, having awarded since its inception in 1997 a total of over $23 million to nearly 3,000 projects across the United States of America and in many countries. That brought us to some reasons for changes that we'd like to explain. We had a Quality of Life Grants retreat in April of 2017, and we identified that most Quality of Life grants ranged from $5,000 to $7,000. The majority of grants were awarded to adaptive sports programs. The maximum grant award of $25,000 has been the same since the beginning. We're not receiving many applications in other areas of funding, and higher impact could be achieved with tiered grants. So the changes in 2018 are as follows. We're having a tiered grant structure. By doing this, we'll be able to continue to support the wide range of programs and services as we have in past Quality of Life grants. At the same time, we'll be able to focus on priority areas for community of individuals living with paralysis and their families. For the first time, a letter of intent, an LOI, will be required for all applicants. And we're introducing a streamlined application process for all applicants. Program overview. Quality of Life grants have funded nonprofits, tribal entities, municipalities for a wide range of projects, programs, and services. The Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation is paralysis focused, and as such, our grant funding must be targeted to projects that will serve individuals living with paralysis and their families. What is a successful Reeve Foundation grant? A successful Reeve Foundation Quality of Life grant is a modest award invested into a very specific project or part of a program or project that directly impacts the lives of people with paralysis and their families. Impact can be demonstrated through numbers of people served and other quantitative measures, along with stories and examples of quality of life improvement. Paralysis defined. The Reeve Foundation uses a functional definition of paralysis: difficulty and or inability to use arms and or legs due to a neurological condition, including but not limited to spinal cord injury, traumatic brain injury, stroke, cerebral palsy, spina bifida, ALS, post-polio syndrome, transverse myelitis, multiple sclerosis, and other conditions. Paralysis defined continued. Sorry, that's a tongue twister there. While we will consider supporting programs that include people that have other types of disabilities or cross-disability organizations, as well as inclusive community projects, Reeve Foundation Quality of Life grant projects must serve at least some individuals with paralysis as defined above and or their families and caregivers. Quality of Life grant tiers. We're going to have two groups of tiers. The first tier is the direct effect. It's an open focus tier and will award grants up to $15,000. And then we'll have the high-impact priority focus tiers. And those include employment, which will award 5 grants at $50,000, nursing home transition, which will award 4 grants at $40,000, and then a final tier, which will award 3 grants each at $30,000 for the following: transportation, respite/caregiving, and disaster response. Who can apply? Quality of life grant applications are accepted from nonprofit organizations, municipalities, and tribal entities. Organizations based outside of the United States of America are eligible to apply. However, the majority of funding is awarded to organizations based in the USA. Who can't apply? Applications cannot be accepted from for-profit companies or individuals. Individuals seeking financial assistance are encouraged to contact the Information Specialist Team here at the Christopher and Dana Reeve Paralysis Resource Center, 1-800-539-7309. Prior grantees, and this is a change. Organizations that have received 1 or more quality of life grants in any category or program in the past do not have to wait 3 cycles or 2 years to reapply for funding, as was the rule previously. However, a very recent grant may influence reviewers to recommend holding off funding until a future cycle. What kind of projects can we fund? In the Direct Effect Quality of Life grants, we'll fund the same wide range of projects as those funded in the prior Quality of Life grants program, including, and now this list is the same list that we used to categorize the grant requests in the past: adaptive sports, accessible playground or ball field, accessible tree house, assistive technology, advocacy, arts, camp, caregiving, consumer education, durable medical equipment, education, employment, facility accessibility modifications, fitness and wellness, healthcare, home accessibility modifications, media development, medical professional education, physical and occupational therapy, peer mentoring and support, service animal programs, therapeutic horseback riding, transportation, and transition from institution to home. What kind of projects can we fund continued? High-impact priority quality of life grants will fund innovative programs in the specific areas of employment, nursing home transition, and this will build on the program that we piloted this year for nursing home transition, transportation, respite/caregiving, and disaster response. What kind of projects can't we fund? Quality of life grants cannot support development of prototypes for invention of equipment or other research and development activities, fundraising events, lobbying and/or efforts to influence legislation, projects that will serve less than 3 individuals with paralysis and/or their families, projects that cannot be completed within 12 months of receipt of the grant award. What expenses can we fund? Quality of life grant funds can support equipment, supplies, programmatic personnel, programmatic consultants or contracted workers, entry fees, programmatic transportation and travel, facility rental, project marketing, etc. What expenses can we fund continued? All budget items should directly relate to the proposed project. Personnel costs directly related to the proposed project may be funded, but they should be essential to the project. Programmatic expenses directly related to serving individuals with paralysis and their families are considered more favorable than operational expenses and/or large capital projects that may take more than 12 months. What expenses can't we fund? Reeve Foundation Quality of Life grants cannot support the following. And we'll repeat this here again. Unfortunately, grants awarded directly to individuals we're not able to do that, but we do encourage you to speak with an information specialist. And again, the number is 800-539-7309. We cannot fund food. We cannot fund new construction of buildings, although we may support playgrounds, trails, and accessibility modifications to existing structures. For-profit organizations and indirect costs above 10% for administrative overhead expenses. So to expand on the indirect costs topic, indirect costs, also called facilities and administration, should only be included under other costs by those organizations that require them for all granted projects. For example, universities and large hospital systems at a federally negotiated rate. However, including indirect costs in the project budget for organizations that don't require facilities and administration will lower the application score. So only put them in if you absolutely have to. Multiple submissions, this was a big question. It is strongly encouraged that organizations submit only one application in a cycle. However, we understand that all of this is brand new and you may not be sure which way to go. So organizations that submit more than one application will not be automatically disqualified. However, if you choose to do so, we will only accept one application in each of those tiers. And if we decide to fund any of those that you submit, it's only going to be one of them, if any. Special consideration. Special consideration will be given to projects that target the following underserved population groups: current military and/or veterans and their families, persons at risk of incarceration, current or released prisoners, ethnic minorities, homeless, indigenous or tribal communities, LGBTQ, limited English proficiency, rural residents, low-income and/or poverty populations, and newly injured people with paralysis and their caregivers. So let's get into the application. There are two applications that are available. The first is for the Tier 1 Direct Effect grant. Just to go over it again, it's a wide open focus. The maximum award level is $15,000. Some examples of grants we can fund in this tier are sports wheelchairs for a wheelchair basketball team, adapted glider in a community playground, kayaks for a rowing program, accessible lockers at a gym, wheelchair accessible picnic tables at a county fairground, camp scholarships, subsidized lessons for therapeutic riding, transportation costs for an inclusive after-school program, stipends for support group facilitators. That's only a few examples. We expect these grants to have short to medium range impact. Long range impact and sustainability is not expected, and the grants must be completed within 12 months after the grant is awarded. And that will be for all of the grants. Now, the second application is for the High Impact Priority Grants, which is, again, 3 tiers of increasing levels of grant funding. It will fund the highest priority issues for individuals living with paralysis and their families. These priorities were identified through many, many conversations with many, many stakeholders, and they were confirmed by a community needs assessment survey conducted by Vanderbilt University. The high impact priority grantees will demonstrate capacity to implement the project without intensive technical assistance, as well as program development, evaluation, and sustainability, and must also demonstrate experience in working in the priority area specified, and again must be completed within 12 months. The 3 high-impact priority tiers, again, are Tier 2 will be 3 grants of $30,000 each in the areas of transportation, respite/caregiving, or disaster response. Tier 3 is nursing home transition, which will be 4 grants of $40,000 each. And Tier 4 is employment, which will award 5 grants of $50,000 each. Letters of intent. I'll call them LOI from now on. All applicants must submit a letter of intent online through the website portal. It saves time for everybody. It allows for early direction to applicants if necessary, and it enables our quality of life staff to learn more about the applicant pool as we proceed. The LOI questions are the same for both application processes, both the direct effect and the high impact. The application questions and review processes differ a little bit. So you can apply either in the direct effect application or the high impact priority application. If you're not sure, you can use either one, and we'll determine where you should go from there after reading it. Same application or same LOI questions in both. Also, for all applicants, we've streamlined the application process. So we wanted to make it as easy as possible, knowing how much time it takes to prepare an application. So this all goes into it very thoughtfully. So the only applicants invited after submitting an LOI can apply for the full application. The LOI questions carry over to the full application and do not need to be repeated. So whatever you put into the LOI, those questions are populated into the application. You don't have to fill it out ever again. The high impact priority application builds on all the questions in the direct effect application. So it's really a building block process so that we can tie in all the information together and make it consistent. Another nice thing that we've changed is that there's no separate budget form required. You will enter your budget information right into the online application. I hope that helps. So the LOI questions. First of all, the first question is on paralysis focus. You'll be asked if you confirm that the proposed project will serve individuals living with paralysis. Because if it doesn't, then I'm going to tell you you're not eligible. The next question is the grant type, and we'll ask you which type of grant you're applying. Direct effect, high impact, or unsure. Project information. Project name. We'd like you to give your project a name. And then here's the most important thing, project description. Please provide a 2 to 4 paragraph description of the proposed project. What your organization wants to do and why, where and when it will take place, and who will benefit. Project scope, amount requested from Reeve Foundation, and how many people affected by paralysis will benefit from the proposed project. This includes people living with paralysis, members of their household, and caregivers. Project timeline. We'll want you to enter a project start date based on the expected receipt of grant funds, and then after that, based on that date, the project end date, which is based on a 12-month grant period. And here's a timeline for LOI submissions. Just going to take a sip of water. Thank you. Direct effect LOIs and subsequent invited full applications will be accepted on an ongoing basis until May 2018 as follows. This is for the direct effect grants. LOIs are accepted from January 16th until April 11th, 2018. Full applications are accepted until May 1st, 2018. That's the last time that we can accept the full application. We will award each month a capped number of grants until May 2018. All applicants will be notified by the end of May, I forgot an M there, the end of May 2018, and all grants will be awarded by June 2018. For the high impact grants, this is different. The high impact LOIs will be accepted until February 15th, 2018. Then the invited full applications will be accepted until March 17, 2018. March 17 happens to be Dana Reeve's birthday. Full applications will be reviewed from March 17th until May 2018. All applicants will be notified by the end of May 2018, and grants will be awarded in June 2018. And this is just the next slide is a duplicate, sorry. Okay, we'll move on. We'll move on. So you'll need to know how to get onto the application. So I want to take a pause and tell you how to do that. You'll want to go to our website, which is Christopher Reeve's Foundation website, www.christopherreeve.org. Click on Get Support. Then click on Funding for Nonprofits. Then scroll down to the application process and click on Find Out More, and then click on the link to the application portal. But first, before you click on that portal, please read the application guidelines. That's the most important thing. It has everything that you need to know. Excuse me. People First Language Guide, a quick guide for establishing evaluation indicators, and then the lists for both the direct effect and the high impact LOI questions and application questions. When you get to that portal, the visual isn't very good here, but you'll get a login page. And you'll want to enter your email address. New applicants will click on Create a New Account and follow the directions. Prior applicants that have applied since the second cycle of 2015, you will want to, if you applied since 2015 in the second half, you can enter Forget Your Password and we'll get that to you. You'll already have an account. If you have applied prior to that, you'll want to start as a new applicant because that's when it started with this new application process. So that's what that page looks like. And then for new applicants, you're going to want to complete your organizational information, contact information, and create a password. Then to proceed, you're going to see two options to apply. You don't see it on the screen, but you'll see apply. It will say either direct effect or high impact. And then this is a repeat of the please read. Then you'll be able to enter your information. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the application questions. So the invited applicants will apply in the tier specified by the QLL team after their LOI has been reviewed and then directed. So it will be either a direct effect or a high impact application. Both of the applications are based on the same foundation of questions with separate questions as appropriate and additional high impact questions. For the full application questions in the direct effect grant application, the first question specifically related to direct effect is the project type. We'll want you to select the project type from the list provided that most closely matches your proposed project. And this is the list that we had before of those project types that are traditionally funded by quality of life grants. So I'm not going to repeat them now because there's many of them and you can skip that part. So questions. All grantees, both the direct effect and the high impact, will answer the following questions. Description of organization's history and capacity. Please provide your organization's mission statement. Please describe your organization's capacity to do the proposed project. Total annual operating budget. This is the number, it's a dollar amount of the expenses for 1 year for your organization. And then previous Reeve Foundation requests. We'll want you to describe any previous requests that you've made to us and or have been funded. It can be in a text box. Proposal information. So in addition to the information that was provided in the LOI, we'll ask you for the age group of participants. Project timeline. In addition to those 2 dates that you provided in the LOI, we'll want you to talk about your activities and timeline. So please detail specific project activities, timeline, and major project benchmarks. Grants are expected to be completed within a 12-month period. Budget information. Again, no separate budget template is required. All of the information is entered into the online application in the following categories. For each of these categories, you'll put in a dollar amount, and then you'll have a text box where you'll put in details for that budget category. So equipment, we put that first because we figure that's where our most frequent request will be. Equipment, consultants and contractors, personnel, travel, supplies, and other. Now for all applicants, we'll want to know about other sources of funding for this project, just so we can see what chance it has for success with or without our funding. So we ask you to please list other sources of project funding and whether they are committed or pending. Sources can be grouped, such as foundations, corporations, and individuals. We want to get a general idea of the picture. And new this year, we would like to know about project contingency funding. Please tell us how Reeve funding fits into your funding plan. What happens if it isn't funded? The high impact priority application has invited applicants to the high impact priority grants answer all of the same questions except where noted as the direct effect applicants. And they also answer additional questions about federal funding, organizational capacity, experience with work in the priority area, and the capacity to perform evaluations. I'm not going to go into every single question because we don't have time today for that, and my voice is giving out, but it's all detailed in the guidelines. Review criteria. Also in the guidelines, we have explicit review criteria that's used for all of the grant applications. So I encourage you to read the application guidelines for details on all aspects of the application process for both types of grant applications, including review criteria, as we said. Every question in both applications is explained in detail. So, although I don't have a slide for it, I just wanted to briefly run down what we're looking for in the review criteria. Project reach. Does the application demonstrate that the proposed project will reach people living with paralysis, their families and/or their caregivers? Considerations may include the target audience identified and established stakeholder networks in place. Project design. Does the application demonstrate that the proposed project design can be successfully implemented? Considerations may include the timeline is feasible, proposed activities clearly match project goals. Organizational capacity. Does the applicant organization have the capacity to carry out the project as proposed? Considerations may include the organization has access to suitable, appropriate resources to execute the service. Qualifications of staff, volunteers, or contractors who will be implementing the project. And a substantial amount of funding has already been committed. Application narrative. Is the application narrative clear and easy to understand? Considerations may include the need for the project has been adequately justified in the proposal. The project activities, goals, and outcomes are defined and explained. The tone and language of the narrative indicates that the applicant respects the lived experience of people with disabilities. Proposed project budget. Is the proposed project budget clear, feasible, and reasonable? Considerations may include budget line items clearly match what is proposed in the narrative. Budget line items are supported by documentation, and this could be a link to the vendor site within the detail section of that project budget line, and or vendor quotes can be attached. Budget line items do not include restricted items. Food, grants to individuals, and new construction of the building. And finally, independent living, inclusion, and community integration. Does the proposed project demonstrate that it will be successful in reaching at least one of the following goals? Increase independent living for people living with paralysis and the related mobility impairments and their families. Promote inclusion and or support integration into the physical, cultural, and spiritual communities in which they live. Applicants that claim to target a specific underserved group or groups will be assessed to determine whether or not the application demonstrates that the organization will provide culturally competent services and outreach to the underserved groups they identify as targeted to benefit from the proposed project or service. I'd like to stop now and leave some time, if we have it, for questions and answers.
Thank you. If you would like to ask a question, please signal by pressing *1 on your telephone keypad. If you are using a speakerphone, please make sure your mute function is turned off to allow your signal to reach our equipment. A voice prompt on the phone line will indicate when your line is open. Please state your name before posing your question. Again, that is *1 to ask a question, and we will pause for just a moment. And we will take our first phone question.
Hi, this is Sarah Caro. I'm calling from Burke Rehab Hospital, and I'm calling. Thank you so much for hosting this call. And I just wanted to find out, we will be opening a new caregiver center at our hospital to assist the families and loved ones who will be supporting the patients that we serve here, which are predominantly spinal cord injury, traumatic brain injury, people who've had strokes, and was just wondering if the new caregiver center and supporting the social worker who will be assisting these families would be of interest to the Reeve Foundation in receiving an LOI under the Tier 3. Would it fit within that area?
Yes, I would say yes.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
There's a lot of different expenses. I'm just wondering, is a social worker probably the primary area, or maybe resource development? I'm just wondering the angle to try to go here.
Let me think about that and get back to you, okay? But I definitely think that it's appropriate, being that it's a new center specifically serving caregivers, that we can look at in that area.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
So let's follow up offline on that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you.
And we'll take our next question.
Yes, hello, this is Amy from Access to Independence, the Center for Independent Living in San Diego. And I just wondered, for the nursing home transition, is there flexibility to use the funds to help people transition from a rehabilitation center, if they're getting rehab for a spinal cord injury, or like transition from a hospital, or is it only transition from a skilled nursing facility?
We will have flexibility in that program. So I would say yes. We would be open to what you are proposing, rather than having a structured, restricted pool of applicants. We want to open it up a little bit. So it's a little bit wider than what we had piloted earlier this year, which was specifically targeted on nursing home transition. It can be other kinds of facilities. We want to know what your needs are. Does that help you? Okay, good.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And as a reminder, that is star 1 to ask a question, and we will move to our next question. Hello, my name is Hannah Chambers, and I'm calling from Warwick Playground Dreams in New York. We are a nonprofit that is raising funds to build an accessible playground that is very much needed in our community. I have 3 questions, if that's okay. I think they'll probably just be very quick answers for you. We're having a little bit of difficulty as we've been reaching out to our school districts in our county to try to get an exact number of children and adults who would be served by this accessible playground. So we were wondering if you would accept an estimate based on census numbers to make a determination of how many families would be served by this.
Yes.
You would?
Yes, that would be good supporting information.
Okay. Thank you. Our next question is, we have a large budget of $300,000. There are many pieces of equipment on the playground that would be suitable for children and adults with a variety of disabilities. Many of them would serve children who have some form of paralysis. So we are wondering how you would like us to present our project. Would you like us to just submit an LOI for specific pieces of equipment, or provide a full description of the entire playground and all of the different pieces of equipment the physical therapists that we've been working with feel would be suitable?
I would focus on the pieces of equipment that you feel would have the best impact for the kids, so that it can be an interactive experience. There's a number of pieces of equipment, a sway fun glider and slides, and we'd love to know what you can provide, like a menu. You don't have to say specifically that for sure.
Okay.
It's just one, unless you want to, but you can give several options and then define that more in the full application.
Okay, terrific.
And I wanted to let you know, as well as anyone else who might be interested in working on an accessible playground, we have created an accessible a toolkit for building an accessible community playground that is available on request by us here at the Reeve Foundation. So just let us know and we'll send that out to you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, and then you had one more question?
Yep, thank you so much. My last question was, as far as total annual operating budget goes, our budget is purely the budget to raise funds for the equipment and facilitate the build of this playground. Is that what you would like to have?
If it's zero, I mean, if you don't have any specific operating expenses for the group, are you coming in as a municipality, or what is the nonprofit status?
We have a 501c3 status thanks to our fiscal sponsor. They have taken us under their umbrella. We are working together with our municipality. So we are all purely volunteers. And aside from an administrative fee to the fiscal sponsor, we don't have any operating expenses at all. It's all funds raised are just going to the playground.
Okay, well then you can put whatever it is for that operating fee for your fiscal sponsor, and that's fine.
Okay.
We just want to get an idea of the size of the organizations that are applying, and that's the main reason we asked that.
Okay. Terrific. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your
guidance. Thank you.
And at this time, there are no further phone questions.
Okay. So we can go through and I can take a look at the ones that have typed them in. And the purpose of these questions and answers, we want to develop answers to these, especially frequently asked questions, and then provide that on the website. You're also able to contact us with specific questions if we're not answering the questions that you have, or if you have something that you think of afterwards, okay? So I'm just going to scroll down here. Okay. So Stephanie Kotick, you're asking about the high impact tier, $30,000. Can you give examples of what you are looking for in the respite caregiving grant awards? Do projects that benefit caregivers qualify, or does it need to be a program that provides respite of sorts to caregivers? We will be wide open as far as what you're suggesting. We did have a respite care grant program piloted this year as well that gave grants of up to $10,000 to very specific kinds of respite care. This grant tier is going to be open to include caregiving, and we don't want to limit the kinds of requests and programs that you're looking to fund. So it can be a wide range of projects. It can be specifically caregivers. It can be respite in different kinds of categories. We want you to tell us about your programs. Does that answer your question? I hope it does. Okay. Then next we have Karen Wolf. Can you go back to the numbers of individuals served? Is it at least 3 individuals with paralysis and caregivers and their family? This was something we thought long and hard about. We would like it to be at least 3 individuals with paralysis and their family. We can't really give a grant where it's only one individual that will benefit, and even 2. I mean, you're really going to need to tell us why this is so important. We're looking to have a little bit more of a wider scope. So, but if you really have something perhaps you need help with, let us know and we'll see what we can do. But we want to have at least 3, and that could be the person with paralysis and or their caregivers and family. So I think you'll be able to hopefully get to 3. Okay. The ILCWR in Waterloo region asks, does the direct effect tier fund assistive devices such as wheelchairs, shower commodes, and accessible vehicles? Yes. Yes, absolutely. It's just in the direct effect tier, we're limited to that $5,000 grant. I just wanted to mention we do have a tier that was established as its own set. In 2015, we launched it. It was for assistive technology, which is also a very high priority area. We are funding that. We're now considering our third round of grants. These are high impact $75,000 grants targeted at a very specific restricted pool of applicants. So stay tuned for news about that. Now we're going to go to a question from Wendy. Can you please clarify the high impact employment and specifically what would qualify in this area? So for this grant area, after talking with many stakeholders about what their highest priority need was, and specifically Centers for Independent Living, we realized we weren't getting a lot of applications in the area of employment, and that could have been because the grant amount was not sufficient enough to put the time and effort into an application and then not have it be enough to make a difference. So we came up with the amount of $50,000. So that is also open to what your specific project is. We want to know what's out there and what's working and what is needed to make it work if it needs some help. So again, it's wide open. I don't mean to be vague, but we would rather hear what you need from you rather than tell you what we think you need. So we're trying to highlight in these areas really 5 grantees that will be able to demonstrate that with this help they're going to continue to make a difference or just highlight things that work. That's what we're looking to do. Again, it's pretty open with exception of those things that we cannot fund due to our federal funding status. I hope that answers your question. And that goes the same for all of the higher priority tiers. And from Letty Zuno, for the nursing home transition work, can we use funds to help people transition from rehab facility and or a hospital, or is it only a nursing home? I believe we answered that question already. Again, we will be open to hearing what your projects are and what the needs are. Okay, and then from Tammy, based on the timeline presented for the direct effect Tier 1 grants, would it be feasible to submit an LOI and grant for a March 6th, 2018 event? I would say that based on the timeline, you would be able to, if you get on it right away and submit early on for this event, it's possible you could get the funding before March 6th. If you don't, then you could apply for the next year's event. But it is conceivable you'll get the money. If it, going through the review and the recommendation process, that is possible. Thank you, Tammy. And from Sharon Peterson, would an existing program be eligible support if it meets all other program guidelines? Yes, we would be open to supporting existing projects. It doesn't have to be a brand new project. And then from Trish Hageman, forgive me if this was already asked. Please don't worry about that. That's fine. But does the foundation have any preference in funding a new program versus an ongoing program? That's very similar to Sharon's question. We do like to fund new and exciting things. However, we also like to fund things that you know and we know work. So we're open to both. And from Devaney Leonard, can you please explain how the employment grant operates? Okay. This also is a larger grant amount. We will be open to supporting the kinds of budget items that you tell us that you need. If it's for a staff person to be a coordinator and follow persons that have been trained with work skills and that are out in the community, we are open to that, as well as equipment, budget items, anything that's relating to how you want to run a grant that will expand employment opportunities for individuals living with paralysis. We want to know, hopefully, if you're interested in applying for that, you do have some experience in it. We want to fund programs that are where there is experience in that high priority. That will be one of the things we're looking at. So again, it is an open area. We want you to tell us what you need to do what you want to do if you are to receive that funding. From Melody Lacey, may I download a copy of the presentation? Absolutely. We will have this presentation recorded and archived. It will be posted on the website. And I will also be happy to follow up with these presentation slides with everyone that has registered. And we will have them also available on the website. And from Lori Stanislav, can you give an example of transportation? Can it include indoor transport such as harness systems? Oh, this is an excellent question. It is a little bit tricky between transportation and travel. They sound the same. It's very interesting that you're including harness systems in transportation. I would consider harness system under equipment, but they certainly do help transport individuals, that's for sure. So for transportation costs, we're talking about, for example, accessible busing for kids that live, for after-school programs that takes them to accessible, inclusive after-school programming. So the busing that will take them there, that's a transportation cost. And other items where usually it's focused on getting the participants to the program, however that might be. However, it can also be related to adaptive equipment for driving, so that could be under transportation. There's specific, I mean, it gets a little, I don't want to go too much into the weeds here, but that's one example of transportation. Can it include indoor transport such as a harness system? Again, I would think that would fall under equipment. But thank you for that question. From Hillary Paramenter, my nonprofit gives away power wheelchairs or scooters to the physically disabled. Into which tier do we fall? Hillary, I would suggest that you apply in the direct effect grant application. From Nikolai Krisen, are applicants deducted points for serving 3 versus 5 individuals? In other words, are grants awarded more often serving 5 people versus 3? I would say that grants are more often awarded to projects that serve a broader range of people. So I would say yes, we would fund something that serves 5 over something that serves 3, but we'll look at every single case individually. We just needed to have some kind of a number. If we're talking about impact and numbers of people served, we wanted to give people some kind of baseline. So that's where we came up with this 3. From Terry Martino, can multiple applications be submitted from the same organization? So this was a tough one too, but we decided that because everything is totally different than what we've done in the past, we want to hear what your great ideas are. So multiple applications can be submitted. Again, actually I think I'm mixing up two different, but related questions. We're not going to disqualify you if you submit more than one. However, and we strongly suggest that you only submit one. It just makes it easier for everybody, and it shows that you have the ability to choose the highest priority project for your application. And it's just, that's what we're looking for. However, if you just can't decide where your application can go, we will not disqualify you if you submit more than one. However, if you're going to do that, we'll only take one in each tier. And if you submit multiple applications, if we decide to fund any of those, we're only going to do one. Okay? And hi, Sandra from NDA. Paralysis has been echoed throughout the presentation. Does it exclude an organization like MDA? We do serve patients with ALS. I know we discussed this, but I wanted to be absolutely sure. Yes, we would absolutely love to get an application from MDA. The paralysis definition, even though it has the neurological condition, and MDA might not be exactly that, it still results in the same kinds of issues for individuals living with paralysis. So that being said, we would love to get an application from MDA. We have gotten many in the past and funded many MDA camps and, like you said, ALS programs. But yes, we would love to get applications from MDA. Okay, and again from Hillary. Our organization gives power mobility devices to individuals with physical disabilities. I am unsure how to count the numbers of individuals served as families of individuals are affected. Any suggestions? I would suggest the local library, the resource center at your local library has a lot of statistics that you can try to gather just to get a flavor of that. If there are organizations, independent living centers in your area that might be able to get an idea of the population of people that you want to serve. So there's a couple of avenues. If you need other assistance on that, get back to us and we can help you further with that. And from Darlene Liddy, do you have a number of grants to be awarded in Tier 1? Hi, Darlene. We're looking to fund at least 33. From my looking at the budget, it's between 33 and 36 grants with a maximum of $15,000. John Whitaker. Hi, John. In the direct effect, who benefits? Are names and contact information required in the LOI or in final application? Okay. So the projects that we fund in all of the tiers, we're looking to benefit individuals living with paralysis. Our names and contact information required in the LOI. When you start the LOI, you'll first need to go in and register as a new account because your online application is on an account and it lives in the internet, so you can go in and apply. So you will need to put in your contact information. And also make sure that whoever you put in as the primary contact person, that you're going to have a current email address and or phone number, because if we have questions, we're going to need to know that we can get a hold of you if we do have questions. And we will ask you questions if something's not clear. I hope that answered your question, John. From D. Nichols, can someone who is now an amputee from thighs down fit the paralysis description? Also, do caregivers count toward the minimum of 3 impacted, or does there need to be 3 people with paralysis? Thank you. Excellent question again. This is a real tough one with individuals living with amputations. It can certainly, it can fit. I mean, the thing with the amputee question is that we have the Amputee Coalition of America, who specifically has projects related to amputees, but there can be individuals that with amputees from the thighs down that are also living with paralysis and may certainly also have questions and needs in common. So, but still, we're gonna want to look for some demonstration of individuals with paralysis. So for the next part of that question, do caregivers count toward the minimum of 3 impacted, or does there need to be 3 people with paralysis? I would say yes, that caregivers are included in that 3. From Michael Jennings, would you fund making a building accessible? We would certainly love to see applications that are looking to increase accessibility. So yes on that one. From Stephanie Kotick, when will the information on the $75,000 high impact tier assistive technology become available? Will that be during this grant cycle? That is a very good question. We had the review last week. We're still in consideration mode. We had 11 applications, and we can only fund 5 of them. So we should have the information on those 5 awards hopefully in the next 2 weeks. The timeline got a little bit delayed, and we just really want to make sure that what we're funding is hitting the mark. So that should be soon. Just keep your eyes peeled for that announcement. Okay. Okay, and then Michael, your question about building accessible for the homeless. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Okay. I'm just looking to see how many we have. I know we're running a bit long on. I'm not sure we'll have time to answer all of those questions. Let me just take a look. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Okay, from Celeste Marian. Hello, my name is Celeste. We will apply for a quality of life grant for transportation for a special needs school in Peru that serves a high population of children with paralysis. We are registered in Peru and in the United States. Do you recommend that we apply as the Peruvian entity or U.S. entity? I would recommend that you apply as the U.S. entity. Thank you. I'm going to take 2 more, and then I think the rest of the questions I'll have to deflect over to the frequently asked questions that we'll send out to people, okay? From Aniko, this question might have already been answered, but I just want to be sure. Can faculty graduate students apply to the nursing home transition grant, the organization being the state university? Yes. From Lauren, just see how many we can get through. Is it a maximum of $15,000 that can be applied for in Tier 1? Or $15,000 your total grant funding that will be applied for that grant tier? That's a good question. It's a maximum of $15,000 per grant. We're looking to fund about 33 projects at that level. It doesn't have to be at 15, so it might be more direct effect grants that we fund, but if they're all at that level of 15,000, we'll be able to do about 33. From Melody, we provide therapeutic recreation to participants who have traumatic brain injuries as well as spinal cord injuries, mostly using golf and 3 paramobiles as well as other adaptive equipment. We served 219 separate individuals in 2017, and 37 had varying degrees of paralysis. We need help with operating costs, equipment, and maintenance, as well as a bit of overhead. I am unsure about which level to apply for. Is it okay for me to simply click unsure, or should I try harder to figure out which level we should apply for? I think if you're having difficulty figuring out which way to go and you want to make sure you get something in, you're fine to click unsure and we'll work with you. Dee Nichols, thank you for all you do and for today's presentation. Very informative. Thank you, Dee. Thank you all. Tears not my fault. Oh, and I'm getting nice greetings from Melody and Lauren and Kim Possibility, thank you, and Mike Hayes in Phoenix. So I think we got through all the questions. Again, thank you all so much for your kind attention, and we'll be getting back with you soon. I hope you all like the rest of the program. Any other questions that come in after this, we'll get to them as soon as we can. And again, thank you very much.
And ladies and gentlemen, this does conclude today's conference. We thank you for your participation. You may now disconnect.